Hello everyone, thank you for joining us wherever you are. I'm Gulo from Jadi PNS. Now we are with Elizabeth McClean from Sydney, Australia. Hello Elizabeth, how are you? Apa kabar?
Hello, Gulo. I'm great, thank you. I'm doing fine. Terima kasih. Kabar baik.
All right, Elizabeth, thank you so much for joining us, and we are really excited to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Flying from Australia to Indonesia, you had lived in Jakarta, the capital city of Indonesia, for over 8 years. Can you share with us your journey from arriving in Jakarta and then founding Jamu? And what stories and lessons for over 8 years you have learned that you would like to share with us?
I would love to. So, for your viewers, I moved to Indonesia, to Jakarta, in the end of 2012 with my family. And I had never been to Indonesia before. I had never been to Bali before. And when we arrived in Indonesia, I instantly fell in love with the country. I fell in love with the landscape. I fell in love with the heat, as well as the sights and the sounds and the smells, the people. Everything around me was different from my own home country of Australia. And I was curious to understand the country that was going to be my adopted home for those 8 years. So I got curious, and with a dear friend of mine, Joe Stevens, we co-founded a blog called A Journey Bespoke. And the reason we founded that blog was we wanted to understand the real Jakarta. So together for 5 years, we wrote more than 300 articles about life in Jakarta. So we interviewed people. So our headings or our areas for sharing were people, home and design, lifestyle, and food. And for 5 years, we wrote about those topics. And for Joe and I, we both were learning the local language, Bahasa Indonesia.
Yay.
And that also helped us in our interviewing. We were able to get really close to the real Jakarta in that way, and to not just be able to speak the language, but to be able to understand the culture, to be able to understand what made people tick in Jakarta. So for 5 years, we wrote and learned so much in that time. We cooked Indonesian food, we shopped for Indonesian, looked for ingredients in pasars, and we spoke to a number of people, from your tukang sol sepatu, which is a shoe repairer, who itinerant shoe repairer, to local creatives, chefs, to people in business, a whole range of people. And in those 5 years, we got a greater understanding of our adopted country. So that was the adventure, which was the blog, A Journey Bespoke. So after 5 years, Joe had moved to a new country to live with her family. And I still had a few more years in Jakarta on my husband's assignment that we had moved there. So I actually then continued to get curious. And there was actually one moment that I will never forget, which set the path for my starting the social enterprise DJAMU. And I want to share this story with you, and it remains very vivid in my mind. Every day from the window of my car, I travelled one particular road, and from the window of my car, every day I saw a man, and he was pushing a cart larger than your average shopping trolley. And the cart was piled high with rubbish. And sitting on top of that rubbish was this man's wife and his two small children. That man was a waste picker. And in that moment, I decided that I would do something to support waste pickers. And I didn't know what it was at that time, but I knew that I would do something. And in that moment, the idea to work with waste pickers was born. And that was end of 2018, beginning of 2019.
Interesting, Elizabeth. And then you founded, yes, you mentioned before, DJAMU.
So again, like I did with the blog, I got curious and I decided that I needed to get close to the problem and I needed to learn from people who were in that space, and I needed to find out what's the data tell me about plastic waste and social inequality. And this is what I found out. The data told me that over 75 billion beverage bottle caps are made in Indonesia each year, and that there is no targeted recycling scheme for bottle caps. So large amounts escape into the environment. So unlike PET bottles, which has a targeted recycling scheme, the beverage industry doesn't have one for bottle caps. So that was the first piece of data, the data set. The second data set was I learned that there were more than 400,000 waste pickers working in Jakarta alone. They experience stigma and bias and discrimination, yet they make up a large part of the waste collection system, but they're not recognised formally for it. So from that data and from learning from local communities and people who are working in that space, and one particular group which I'll highlight are called Excess Project, and they work with the community that I also work with. In fact, that they very much are the trailblazers in this area. So I connected also with Excess Project and asked that community, they're an NGO, I asked for that community to share with me, introduce me to the community, and I wanted to understand what life was like for a waste picker. I wanted to know where they lived, and I wanted to know their stories. And so I spent time speaking with the community, listening to their stories, hearing about what day-to-day life was like, from daylight till the end of the day, working as a waste picker, and what it meant for their families as well.
Interesting, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for connecting, the local community, your story, and also the data, and also NGO, and all of the possible opportunities to create, solutions from all of the challenges and problems around us. And then you mentioned about plastic bottle cups. What made you focus on upcycling plastic bottle cups into eco-friendly products?
Yes. Well, first of all, I knew that there was so many of them. More than 75 billion were being produced in Indonesia each year, and that there was no path for them. So I knew that it was a complex problem, and I really I want to really state clearly that I understand that plastic waste and social inequality, they're big issues. They're complex. They're systemic. But at the same time, I guess I see my work as I see myself as a change maker, and I see that with time, it's possible to understand a problem or problems and to find a solution. So going back to the bottle caps, I worked with some Indonesian product developers who were absolutely wonderful. And before I engaged the product developers, because I knew that I wanted to see if there was an opportunity to upcycle bottle caps into new products. And before I met with the product developers, we had a great conversation, lots of conversations before we even started. And I said, if I'm going to work with you, it's really important that you really love the problem that we're trying to solve here, that you feel so passionate about this problem of plastic pollution and social inequality as me. And they absolutely did. And they've been on the journey with me from that very day. So with their knowledge and expertise and working together with this team, we discovered that HDPE plastic can be upcycled very easily, and it can be extruded into a material that can be woven. So when we realized that, we saw there was a great opportunity in Indonesia, a country where weaving is part of the culture, that imagine. So there were lots of gatherings where we would just imagine a better world, and we imagined upcycling bottle caps and turning them into products that were woven and using existing skills in Indonesia, weaving skills. So HDPE can be easily extruded, turned into a material which is like spaghetti or mee if you're living in Indonesia. And we've spent the last 3 years product developing and really working at how do we perfect the craft of upcycling bottle caps into a material that can be woven.
Interesting. When we're talking about eco-friendly products, do you have something to show us about DJAMU's eco-friendly products, Elizabeth?
Yeah, I'd love to show you. And I have right here, this is our first product, which is our DJAMU bicycle basket market tote. And it is made from 500 bottle caps that have been that have been intercepted from landfill by DJAMU waste pickers. And so we start with the bottle caps, and a little later I can tell you about that process. But this is our first product. It is a bicycle basket, market tote, and it's made from 500 bottle caps intercepted from landfill. And we're very proud of our first product.
Wow. And you have something else to show us about
your product? Yes, I do. I wanted to show you this as well. This is the filament. This is, again, this is just the raw material made from bottle caps. This is extruded bottle caps. And a little later as well, I can tell you how we do that. So each color, the colors of filament directly relate to the bottle cap. So there's no artificial colors or anything. So maybe you can guess what beverage this is in Indonesia. You can tell me later.
Yes, yeah, okay. All right. That's amazing what you and your team have been doing, Elizabeth. And then you've named your social enterprise with DJAMU. What I know, DJAMU is Indonesian traditional herbal medicine. But why did you name it DJAMU?
Yes, exactly. So jamu in Indonesia is a herbal drink. And anyone who's listening in from Indonesia might be thinking, maybe she got this wrong. Why would she name name her social enterprise Jamu? Well, over time, living in Jakarta, well, first of all, I'll go back to the point where in Jakarta I drank jamu, and every day a lady called Ibu Jamu would come past my house, and she carried on her back a basket keranjang. In Indonesia, it's called keranjang, or a basket filled with all her amazing health tonics. And so I used to purchase jamu from our local jamu seller, who was a female entrepreneur. And I'll come back to that point. So over time, I saw this beautiful connection that jamu had with health and with well-being. And that's what was missing for our planet, our local environment, and that's what was missing for waste pickers, health and well-being. So there was this beautiful synergy. Additionally, jamu provides a livelihood. So Ibu Jamu, the lady, Mrs. Jamu, if you like, who came past my house every day, her livelihood was made by selling the jamu, and obviously the proceeds going back to support her family. And I love that model. I love the model of a female entrepreneur. I loved that her work. So jamu is my inspiration. It is our brand's inspiration. Ibu Jamu is our inspiration. She's a female entrepreneur. We love that. So the name Jamu has the letter D in front of it, but it's the same Jamu. And so it was the perfect fit for our social enterprise. It gets people talking, why Jamu? And it also gets people talking about our first product, our bicycle basket, which was inspired by the basket, or in Indonesia, it's called the keranjang, that Ibu Jamu would use to transport the herbal drink jamu. So Ibu Jamu is our inspiration for sure.
Oh, all right, Elizabeth, I have to give an applause. Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
Yes. And did you start Jamu by yourself?
Yes, I did. I started Jamu by myself, and at this point, it's myself and a whole range of supporters who are mostly volunteers.
And most of them are volunteers. And how many teams members
Yeah,
you have in
yeah. So I'm the founder and the CEO, and I work alongside two other volunteers in more of an organizational way. So the JAMU organization is a very flat structure, so which means that everybody is a part of the conversation around our plans, what's coming next, what is our brand all about, what are we looking to achieve. So I'm the founder and the CEO. I work alongside two other volunteers, and in our team is an incredible mix of human beings, and they are three people from the informal waste community in South Jakarta. And in that waste community, JAMU works with one male and two females, we're really excited to say, and also three other informal workers, and that is two males and one female in South Jakarta. So with that team, we've been able to get to we are today. And at this point, we are, like I said, we're lots of volunteers, lots of support from the outside, but an incredible team who are so excited about the opportunities that DJAMU is providing.
And then how did you find or recruit your team members?
Yeah, so you know, it actually was quite easy. Going back to that time when I got really curious about the problem, and I reached out to a number of people in the informal waste community space, and in that community, there were a range of people who were really interested in working alongside us, what they were interested in was being upskilled. They were interested to learn more about what we were doing, and over time, we just got along so well. Another group, the second group of informal workers, I actually came to know just from my everyday activities in Jakarta. So I actually was one to talk a lot about what I would just get chatting to people, or I'm working on this project. And there were people who said, "Oh, Ibu, I would love to join you." And so they came on board, and we've all been on this journey together.
Interesting. And then what do you and your teams do in JAMU?
Yeah, so the first or most important part of JAMU is capacity building and training. And what I mean by that, I'll give you an example. So the waste community that we work with and the individuals that we work with there, when we sat down with them, and I'll share their names. So Pak Sanan, Mr. Sanan, his wife Ibu Oni, Mrs. Oni, and their adult daughter Mbak Fitria. So I sat down with them in their community home, and I just chatted with them about plastic, about waste, about plastic waste, about bottle caps. And the first thing that they shared with me was that no one had ever spoken to them about the material that they were working with. So in that moment, I was like, okay, I see a way forward here. There's so much that I can share about the plastic that JAMU was going to work with, and that was HDPE plastic. So the first part of our training is how to identify HDPE plastic out in the environment. Sometimes there's codes. Number 2 is the type of plastic, type 2 plastic. So that was also really an amazing moment when the community were informed that actually there are different types of plastic, and you can identify them in different ways. So that was the first step, identifying the plastic, sorting that plastic, and really determining whether it is the right kind of plastic that we need. It needed to come from a beverage bottle and not from a medicine or obat in Indonesia. Obat for medicine, we were not going to use that kind of bottle cap, but only from a beverage or from a drink bottle. So being able to identify that. Then sorting it, we sort by colour, and after that we wash each of the bottle caps by hand. Yes, because what we're really looking to do is to remove the sugar, or the gula. In Indonesia we say gula for sugar. So we want to remove that sugar because it will contaminate in the next step. So that was a really important step as well. I want to also clarify that it was really, really important to be sharing with the waste community that it was dignified and meaningful work that we were upskilling in. And absolutely, in the first couple of times we met, the group were so excited about the opportunity that was being presented with them. We also talk about health and safety. It's not a safe environment working with waste. So we spend a lot of time speaking about how to be safe in the environment that they're working in day to day. The next steps were about how to use the machinery that was necessary to make the filament to be able to then weave it. So for JAMU, we use 2 machines, and the first one is called an extrusion. I'll go back. It's called a shredding machine. The first one's a shredding machine. So we take the bottle caps and we put them into the machine, which cuts them up into very tiny little pieces. That's called flake. After that, we want to extrude that flake material, and that's when we are turning it into the spaghetti material, or the mie material. So that's a new skill. And I remember the very first time, Pa Iwan, who has been working with the shredding machine and the extrusion machine, and he said, "Ibu, nobody has ever taught me a skill like this before." And he was so excited. And I said to him, "Pa, it's a little bit like when you're working with your motorbike, yeah?" And he's like, "Yeah, boo, it is. It's kind of similar. You know, there's the same kind of problems, you know, with the engine and you know, you've got to maintain it, that kind of thing." So we make always making connections with everyday real life experience that our JAMU team have. Yeah.
Elizabeth, you know, your story seems like, wow, you have a wonderful stuff. Not only just working, but like feeling, you can touch the feeling of the people that you have, inspired and impacted in your team. Wow. And as a social enterprise startup, how do you make JAMU to be sustainable?
Yeah, that's a great question. Sustainability is our mission. So we want to be sustainable in terms of the environment. So we want to preserve. So being sustainable to us is about preserving. So we want to preserve the environment, that beautiful environment that is Indonesia. So removing bottle caps, that's how we can be sustainable. And also we want to preserve society. We want to preserve communities. We want to uplift communities, and we want to say, you deserve better. And here's an opportunity to learn new skills and also to debunk some of those societal views which say that waste pickers, that waste pickers cannot. And we say waste pickers can, and they can do more. So education is one of our sustainability pillars. Capacity building and crushing limiting beliefs about what individuals can do in those communities, that education can unlock opportunity. And we want to democratize innovation and technology as well. And we've already done that by being able to show people that informal waste workers and informal workers can use machinery that processes plastic, and they can learn those skills, and they are, and our community is doing that. Our JAMU community are incredible in their passion for learning new skills.
Interesting. And then as a founder of JAMU, what it's like being a social entrepreneur?
Yeah, great question. To be honest, being a social entrepreneur it's the hardest, but the most rewarding job I've ever done in my professional career. And what drives me is my belief that education can unlock opportunity, and to be able to share a vision for a better future with a community is such a privilege and an honor. So I also kind of an analogy of being a social entrepreneur is like working with a giant jigsaw puzzle. And you can see the beautiful picture on the front, on the front of the box, but the pieces, there's no pieces in there. So being a social entrepreneur for me is like having a jigsaw puzzle, a giant, complex, tricky jigsaw puzzle with so many pieces, and it's complete on the front. On the top of the box, there's a beautiful image of the future, but inside there are no pieces, and it's my job to design those pieces to make that beautiful picture on the front come alive.
Wow, so insightful and life rewarded job kind of thing. Yeah, and what are your proudest DJAMU achievement to date, and what impacts has DJAMU accomplished to date?
Thank you for that question. You know, I do go back to those moments when I think about accomplishments or achievements. They're all about where I've seen an example of one of our team's belief in themselves shifting. For example, like I shared with Pasanan, a waste picker in our team, who said to me, Ibu, or Mrs. Elizabeth, he said, why didn't anyone ever tell me what was possible with waste? When I go to do my job now and I'm looking at tutup botol, which is the Indonesian word for bottle cap, I will know what is possible. And there was a mind shift in him and a greater sense of his own worth and his belief in himself. So that to me is success and achievement. And it's not my achievement, but it's the achievement or the mindset change or the movement in thinking of individuals about what they're capable of, and with support as well, what's possible. So they're very heartfelt stories from me as a founder, and that stay very, very much with me daily. But from a question of impact, social impact in particular, I would say that DJAMU to date has improved the lives of everyone who has been a part of our journey. So those 6 individuals, those amazing individuals who are part of our team, their lives have been improved, and we work to continue to improve them even further, and further people coming on board. But as well as that, I'd like to share an achievement which, you know, all of us are really proud of, and that's the number of hours that we've worked together. So 44 hours of plastic education, 80 hours of technical training, 400 hours of online chat tech support, and 800 hours of work experience that together we've, through volunteers, through support from people in Jakarta and around the world who have picked up on our work and have provided insights and support. So we're really proud of that. We're only just getting started as well, and we're really excited for the future. As well as that, we've removed bottle caps, you know, thousands of bottle caps from the environment, and the stage at the startup that we're at present, we're still prototyping. we haven't launched big time yet. We still have to do that, but already we've removed waste, those bottle caps which are polluting the environment, and we're working with a small group, and their lives have been improved.
Amazing. Keep doing and making more impact with JAMU. That's amazing. That's amazing impact. I'm personally really proud of you and your team. And next, do you have any podcast or something like that that you listen to for inspiration?
I love all forms of media which educate. So YouTubes and podcasts are very much part of my day-to-day places to go for inspiration. And one podcast actually that I'm presently listening to is How to Save the Planet. And it's on Spotify. And I just love it because there are opportunities to listen to such a range of voices internationally. And today I was actually listening to an amazing edition, which was actually a previous edition from COVID times around 2020, 21. And it was a podcast about how to green Ramadan. And it was speaking with a group of amazing individuals in the UK. And they were speaking about how they were going to make their Ramadan greener. What were they going to do in terms of their behaviours and activities? And I found it really insightful. And as with all the podcasts that I listen to and the YouTubes, I go there for learning, and I go there to get an education for myself. I want to know not just about the work that I'm doing in waste, but I want to understand a whole range of topics of change makers, if you like.
That's an inspiration. And then last but not the least, what is your message for young people to take real action for the community?
Yeah, thank you. But young people for me are my inspiration. I would say that young people are leading the way in this space. And I would say to young people, don't stop what you're doing, to raise your voices, to make yourselves known. And they definitely are in spaces like, on Instagram and on TikTok. Young people are calling out inequality. They're calling out big businesses. They're calling out injustice. And I'm always inspired by young people. So I guess I would say to young people as well, if you're not quite sure, you really would like to have a voice in this space of plastic waste, for example, or social inequality, I would say get curious, look around you, spend time connecting with nature. That's a great place to be inspired. And also, I think there are so many young people, like on Instagram, like on YouTube, who have got great ideas for a better world.
Great. Thank you so much. Terima kasih banyak, Elizabeth McClean, for your inspiring story.
Sama-sama. You're welcome.
And thank you, everyone, for joining us. Let's collaborate to make this world into a better place. I'm Glo from JDPNS. Thank you and see you again.